Start your day.
Yeah. So are you ready to elevate customer obsession with the Leadership Summit this year? This is for all CXOs, customer experience officers, building a culture of customer obsession, the HR playbook, thinking like a CXO. That's CX, customer experience as a revenue accelerator, CX in governance. And what did we say customer experience is? A chief experience officer is one that drives revenue and growth by making strategic improvements to the company's customer experience and employee experience programs. CXOs are also referred as Chief Customer Officer or the Chief Customer Experience Officer in an organization. They will be meeting at the Current Country Club from tomorrow, the 27th, and also the 28th at the Current Country Club for this Elevating Customer Obsession Leadership Summit. Key speakers, Dr. Dorothy Cheyune, who is a CEO of Moyo Experience and best-selling author, and Pauline Masharia, CEO and founder of Reimagine Plus. More information and details, you can get them on info@reimagineplus.com or official Pauline Masharia. You can email her, or also you can get all the details on their website. Okay, that is Reimagine Plus. Ndu.
Yes.
Si hii mambo yote tunaongea, it all comes down to one email address.
One email address. And it's one that you need to remember. So imprint on your mind, prioritybanking.ke@sc.com. What's that going to do for you? Well, when you do that, open the email, write the email, and you put that address in there, it's going to go to folks who then will be able to give you a call or say, come, let's reason together. Says Standard Chartered Priority Banking. Because you're going to ask questions about how do I then create, how then do I manage, how then do I grow what? Your wealth. And they will be right there to be able to walk you through this journey towards this satisfaction that you seek over time. It's the folks at Standard Chartered Priority Banking. They've been doing it for a good 110 years in 55 unique markets around the world. The world, not your world, the actual world.
The global world.
Yes, and they can actually help you walk through this. So remember, it's prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
Right. So let's talk about health research. And we've hosted this gentleman here with us before, Professor Sam Kinyanjui, who is the head of training at the Kemri Wellcome Trust Program. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
I'm very good.
You are?
Yeah.
You don't sound it, Bana. What song?
Niko Sawa.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Now you've come there.
In fact, I was saying I think I might look for a job here. I've been here so often now.
You mean they haven't offered you a job yet?
So imagine.
No, actually, sorry, maybe I've it's because I overheard something. Just when ngoja utapigiwa simu.
Sawa.
But act surprised when they do. When they do, act surprised. Okay? Yeah, you just don't know. You didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean you guys? Oh. Okay, we are going to talk about the steps in health research. You were here before. In the last time we were talking about the IDEAL program and what you and other researchers are doing in terms of just bringing together many people who would be interested in research and showing them that research is actually a good thing to be involved in, and particularly health research.
Yes.
But then we also don't understand this health research thing.
Yeah.
What's it all about? Okay.
Yeah.
For example, the other day we had two scientists who are commencing some groundbreaking research on trying to understand the impact of climate change on our health systems. And we're calling it what? New risk.
New risk, yes.
Right? And we're like, okay, so where does it begin? Where does it end? At what point did you guys think about this? Then how do you go about it?
Yeah.
And then how shall that research then become useful? All those steps.
Yeah.
You'll take us through them today. City will take us through the steps of understanding a kingdom, the last absolute monarchy in Africa. It is.
Northern Africa have some fairly absolute monarchies.
Those ones are not last absolute monarchies.
Believe me, even when they call them an absolute monarchy, it's not entirely true, because the moment you have a parliament, you have a lower house, you have an upper house, you have a prime minister.
Quisha.
No,
Okay.
you actually can't refer to it as absolute. Monarchs tend to have advisors and they stop there.
Bas.
Yes. Now,
What's the structure of government in this country that you are taking us to this week?
Well, they have they have a king.
Okay.
Okay, now everything, plenipotentiary, etc. Then they have a queen mother. Okay, the one whose name I'm not going to pronounce because
Queen mother is the mother of the king, or is the
mother of the king,
the leader of the queens?
Mother of the king.
Okay.
Yes.
How many queens do we have in that country?
How many queens do we have? Queen is one, chief.
There's one.
Yeah,
There's one queen, and then there's the king's wife.
Yes,
different.
that's different. Yes.
Yeah.
There's senior, junior wife, and so forth. Okay. All right. You have a prime minister. I told his name is Russell Dlamini. You have a chief justice named Baki Mfalala. Okay, then you have a legislature. You have a parliament. You have an upper house. You have a lower house called the House of Assembly. See? So that is the structure.
I think the king's mother is called the great she elephant.
Yes.
Then Drovokazi.
Yes.
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 She's there. The great she elephant.
Yes.
Her role is not to be underestimated, by the way, in determining even who becomes king. Yes, and that's why she's part of the structure of that government. Right. She elephant.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
The people of Eswatini share very many similarities with the Zulu kingdom, or should I call it the Zulu nation? Okay. The proverb, a person born to be a flower pot will not go beyond the porch.
A person born to be
A flower pot.
will not go beyond the porch. Prof, what's your interpretation of this one?
Wow, that's a hard one. But it seems to suggest that there are certain roles that people may be predestined for, and they're unlikely to go beyond that point. Although I'm not completely sure, sometimes you can overcome your restriction to the porch.
Yes.
And grow out and grow in the garden.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. In my mind, really, this proverb talks of conditioning. Because, and you say, you are predestined to be something, and you can say, who says?
Yeah.
Who says I cannot be a wallflower? Why is someone insisting that I must remain in a pot? So, yes.
It's not a flower, it's a pot, though. A person born to be a flower pot.
Yes.
Not flower in a pot.
Oh, no. I'm extending the meaning. Yes.
You will not become a dog if you're born as a flower pot. Okay? Or a wall.
You'll not become a cooking pot.
You will not become a cooking pot.
You'll remain a flower
pot. Okay. So, Prof, research. Where does research begin?
Okay. Thank you. So, as you know, you have hosted quite a number of scientists.
Yeah.
I always like first reminding everybody, the viewers and listeners, that when we talk about health research, we are not just talking about medical research. And this will come out as I'm discussing different ways of how you develop research, how you conduct it, how you report it, and other aspects of research. So it's always important to remind people. So it's not just a medical doctor in a laboratory. Here we are talking of research into social determinants of health. We are talking about systems determinants of health. We are talking about environmental determinants of health. But essentially, research always starts by identifying a problem. And you identify a problem in a number of ways. It can be anecdotal. People start saying, hey, my auntie has had this issue. Oh, my uncle has had this issue. Or it can be from just observation. And again, I'll use medical, diseases as an example. Doctors start noticing, we are seeing people with a particular type of syndrome or symptoms. And that is exactly what happened with COVID. They realized people were coming with pneumonia that was not typical to the pneumonia that they had been seeing. So you start wondering what is going on here. So here's an example of where you're researching into a disease. So then you will start now thinking, I think there is something going on that is not the usual disease. And the question then you'll ask is, are we seeing an emergence of a new disease? I'm using emergence of a new disease as an example. And so now you start documenting carefully and looking at the trends. Are you seeing an increase? Was it a one-off? Was it a spike? Was it just an individual? You also start trying to work out which area the people are coming from, what are the characteristics of the people who seem to be coming with that challenge. Are they young people? Are they old people? Are they female, male? Is there something about their body type and these sort of things? So this is often the first step and is what in health science we call epidemiology, coming from the word epidemic in quote, but is understanding the disease, where is it, who is it affecting, and sort of what are the numbers and even the trends. Are we seeing an increase or is it a one-off event? Having identified those sort of questions, then you go to the next step and you start asking why. What is it about? If it's you find that it's actually prevalent, say, among young people or among old people or people with particular characteristics, you then become interested in why is it that those people are more vulnerable? And for you to understand that, the questions then you're asking is, what is it about their makeup? In other words, their biology. And this is now why you're starting to go into the lab. What is it also about that particular parasite? And again, for parasite, I use that term loosely to cover viruses, bacteria, worms, all those I'm using in general. And you also want to understand, you may first even want to understand what is that parasite, because you may not even know it. So you may have to identify it, which is, I think, luckily, and in a very unlucky manner, COVID have helped people understand a bit of how these activities occur. And so there you're doing what you call biomedical research, because there you're focusing on the biology of the person, i.e. the host, the parasite, and also you're looking at what are the channels by which transmission is occurring. So you're asking, is it insects? Is it through contaminated water? Is it through people coughing at each other and sneezing? Is it through handshake? Is it through sexual contact? So you're also trying to understand that process. And again, also now trying to understand what is the impact of this infection in the body. Which parts of the body is it affecting? So is it the lungs? Is it the gut? And all the different systems that we have. So once you start understanding that, it allows you first to understand the impact of how the infection is spreading, but also how it's relating with the body. Because then you can start pinpointing what is it disrupting in your body. Is it disrupting a certain metabolic? When I say metabolic, your body does a lot of things inside, yeah? That's how you live. The process of living is a combination of so many chemical activities going on in your body at any one time. So you're looking at which chemical process is being impacted by this infection. So when you have that understanding, then you can start saying, where do I intervene? So let me use an analogy that people understand. You hear noise in the car.
Yeah.
And you know, if you take it to a mechanic, they'll start thinking, that noise. First, they might even just do informed guess. They may say, that sounds very much like it's coming from the engine area.
You're in a borrow joint.
Yeah, and it's a shoba. I'm a crankshaft. A crankshaft. So they may not be right, but at least because they are experienced, they have a starting. It's not completely wild guess. Although sometimes we could be completely lost. Like, we've never had that noise. We hatujaisikia. We'll have to lift the car to kwa shimo tuinue juu. We look underneath. We start trying to identify. But as you home in, for example, they may say, okay, you crank it up. When you turn on the engine, it's got very low power. So it may be the air intake, or it may be the fuel. You know, by the way, sometimes you'll take your car when you first start owning a car as a young man. the car stops, and then you call the mechanic, and the guy comes, he checks around, and says, "Umeka mafuta."
And that's it.
You know, you first buy an old car, the speedometer doesn't
The
the
fuel
fuel
gauge
gauge
doesn't
doesn't
work.
show. It's permanently on full, whether the car is empty or not. So anyway,
It's a process of elimination.
it's a process of elimination and also a process of forming what you call a hypothesis, where a hypothesis is not a complete wild guess because you're using all the different information that we already know about the human body and about parasites to kind of zero in. And once you've zeroed in at that point, then you can start asking. And here we are talking in some instances, years, in some instances, very quickly, we are able to identify. And then at that point, you can now start asking, how can we disrupt the parasites? At what stage can we disrupt the infection? Is it at the channel where you get infected? For example, if it is insect-borne diseases, is it killing the mosquitoes? How can we eliminate the mosquitoes? If it is through contact, if you remember, when we all had to wear face masks because for airborne, is it water? Provision of clean water? So there are all these factors that you are looking at.
Yeah. How do you then determine which is the best channel of disruption? How do you then say, okay, well, in this case, maybe we should tell folks to just wash their hands, or should we tell folks to wear a mask, or should we say, don't breathe next to each other, or don't breathe at all? How do you say? How do you say this is the best one to do based on that research?
Okay. So there are a number of ways you come up with what is the best thing to do. In some cases, the disease will resemble other diseases. So, for example, if it's an airborne disease, a pneumonia, even if it's a new type of pneumonia, we already know how to stop infection by by preventing cough droplets. So it may be that you don't need to reinvent a new intervention because already there are interventions for diseases of similar type. But in some cases you don't. And this is where now you have to start looking at... So let me use a treatment, for example, as an intervention. So again, you may find that although that disease is different from those that already existed, it's similar enough that it may be treated by already existing. So, for example, bacterial infections, they are often treated with antibiotics. Because bacteria belong to similar families, you may get a new disease with a new member of the same family, meaning that you can still use the antibiotics that you've been using against that family in general. However, there are times when we don't even have those treatments. So there, what happens is that having tried to understand the biology, so now understanding your enemy, in the same way, if you had any enemy, you'd have to work out what are their ways, how do they invade our country, what type of arsenal are they using, what uniforms are they wearing so that we can recognize them. And then, again, now you use our understanding of biology to say, maybe this compound here can kill these parasites.
Yeah.
But at that point, you still don't have a surety that it will work.
Yeah.
And in fact, maybe every 100 or more compounds or chemicals that scientists often start with, you may end up with only one. Or two working.
Yeah.
Now, and feel free to interrupt me as I flow along.
Yeah.
Now, we have made, again, educated guess. And I know people here, scientists guess. Well, at some point we are starting with, that's why I'm saying it's educated, because it's informed by other, the knowledge we already have about things. That's what we call a hypothesis in more technical term.
Yeah.
In less technical term, it means we are anticipating or hoping based on the knowledge we have. So you then start testing those compounds. First, you test them. We don't say, I think this will work, and you walk up to Muga, you're coughing, That is completely unethical. There are ways we test. We test in the lab, for example. We can take human cells. First, we can take
From a living human being.
Yeah, your red cells, your white blood cells, all these cells which you can get from the blood. We can also grow those parasites in the laboratory. So first you normally grow them outside the human body, and you hit them with this, your experimental drug, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And you see whether it will kill them. Now, it may kill those parasites, so you think you're in luck. But actually, you're not yet in luck, because there are a lot of things that can kill parasites outside the body. But remember, you don't know whether that thing that is killing the parasite would also kill the human being.
Yeah.
The most efficient way to kill the parasite would be to kill the host and the parasite, but it would be very, very unethical.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd want that. So basically, you have now at least shown in the laboratory this chemical that we guessed, educated ways, that it might kill the parasite has worked in the lab. So the next step often has been to then go to what we call the animal stage for testing. So you're taking mice, and this is where the traditional guinea pig term came from, that you could test in guinea pig. It doesn't just have to be guinea pigs or mice. It depends on whether that disease can infect particular animals. So it may be rat, it may be mice, it may be even monkeys. So you infect them deliberately, and then you treat them with that compound. At the same time, you're starting to also check how toxic, how poisonous, how dangerous this compound is. Because if it's knocking out mice in certain quantities, you can scale up by human being and say, well, this one, even though it looks like it's good, we can't put it in humans. But if you pass the animal, what you call animal model, that stage, then that's when you start what are called human clinical trials. And
if you notice that it did not kill the animal.
No, so there are two things you're checking there. You're checking whether it will cure the animal.
Okay.
Remember, you've infected the animal.
Yep.
But you're also checking the amount that will kill the mice. So we test, we say...
So you have to go all the way until the thing dies.
Well, you have increasing doses.
Right.
So there's a group that may get 10 units, whatever the unit may be, 20 units, that unit, 40 units. You keep... So there are groups that will get increasing amounts. And what then you're doing there is, we call it toxicity testing. So you will say, at 40 units, 50% of the mice died. So they didn't die from the disease, they died from
The medication.
the medication. And so you have to now be aware, if you're going to go into humans, you even for your first test, you will be using the lowest amounts. And at this point, when the first time you go into humans, you're not testing whether it cures. The first thing you always test is safety. Is it safe? So you take, normally it's healthy male young adults. We don't start with women because obviously of subsequent risk in pregnancy and childbirth. So it's normally healthy young men. Often in Europe they do it with university students, and I want to take a slight break here because I want to discuss the issue of the ethics of now testing in humans.
What are they testing in humans?
Yeah.
Let's take a break, yes.
Yeah.
But we have to ask ourselves the ethics of testing on animals in the first place.
So the ethics of testing on animals.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
It's 28 minutes to 9. The steps in health research, that is what Professor Sam Kinyanjui, head of training at the Kemri Wellcome Trust program in Kenya, is taking us through. Okay, so we are at that stage where you have identified, so this is the pathogen, it's killing, whatever parasite is killing, it's affecting or infecting
people.
And then you take it to
Animal. You test.
You start observing what is happening
experimental compounds.
to the animal.
Yeah.
And the question that just comes in out of this break is, so where's the ethics? What are you going to do this to animals?
Good.
And why not humans first? Okay. We'll come back shortly with this particular one.
Yeah.
So, Prof, this weekend,